We like to imagine that transformation is gentle, that it comes wrapped in inspiration, or hope, or peace. But that's not how life works. Transformation doesn't emerge in comfort. It's born in discomfort, in that unbearable tension between what you are and what you know you could be. Discomfort is nature's signal that the old way of being no longer fits. It's not a curse, it's a call, a summons to evolve. People often think that comfort equals happiness, but comfort is deceptive. It gives you the illusion of peace while quietly suffocating your potential. The longer you remain comfortable, the smaller your world becomes. You stop seeking, stop risking, stop questioning. You trade growth for safety, and in doing so, you lose the vitality that makes life meaningful. The human spirit is not built for stagnation. It's built for challenge, for overcoming, for movement towards something higher. Discomfort tears away illusions. It exposes the truth of your limitations, but also the truth of your capacity. When you face discomfort voluntarily, something remarkable happens. You grow teeth. You become someone who can withstand chaos without crumbling. That's not just psychological strength. It's moral strength. It's the ability to carry the weight of your life with integrity, to move forward even when the path burns beneath your feet. Every act of genuine transformation requires the death of something, an identity, a belief, a habit. That death is painful because the old version of you resists annihilation. It whispers, "Stay where it's safe. Stay where it's known." But if you listen to that voice, you remain trapped in repetition, reliving the same patterns, the same mistakes, the same mediocrity. Transformation demands that you sacrifice who you were for who you might become. Discomfort, then, is not the enemy. It's the gatekeeper of your potential. To run from it is to run from growth itself, but to face it willingly, honestly, courageously is to unlock a strength that cannot be taken from you. Because once you've walked through the fire of discomfort, you discover that what burns away is not your essence, but your limitation. And on the other side stands someone new, someone forged, not in ease, but in truth. That's the paradox of transformation. The path that hurts the most is the one that heals you the deepest. Discomfort is not an accident. It's not merely a moment of pain or confusion that interrupts your peace. It's the signal that something deep within you is stirring. When you feel discomfort, it's your mind and body whispering that you've reached the edge of your current understanding. Most people interpret that feeling as a threat and retreat into distraction, denial, or comfort. But discomfort isn't there to punish you, it's there to wake you up. It's a message from your own consciousness that says, something here demands your attention. Without it, awareness would remain dormant, and growth would be impossible. Every significant moment of self-discovery begins when the illusion of ease collapses. Think of the times you've truly learned something about yourself, not intellectually, but experientially. It wasn't during moments of comfort. It was during heartbreak, failure, rejection, or uncertainty. Those moments stripped away the false sense of security you built around yourself and forced you to confront who you truly were. Discomfort is a mirror reflecting the parts of you you've been unwilling to see. It reveals your insecurities, your avoidance, and your self-deceptions. It breaks down the comforting lies you tell yourself to maintain stability. Awareness cannot emerge in the absence of disturbance, because it's the disturbance itself that compels you to look closer. In comfort, the mind sleeps. It's lulled into a routine, repeating familiar patterns that require no thought, no courage, no reflection. Comfort blinds you because it gives you no reason to question. You simply exist, floating through predictable motions, mistaking stability for peace. But awareness is born the moment that cycle is interrupted. Discomfort acts as the jolt that forces you to open your eyes and confront the truth that something is misaligned. That's why the people who evolve the fastest are those who don't flee from discomfort, but examine it. They ask, why do I feel this way? What is this emotion trying to reveal? Awareness grows not from avoidance, but from curiosity toward pain. Discomfort, paradoxically, is the most honest teacher you'll ever meet. It doesn't flatter you. It doesn't coddle your ego. It exposes your weaknesses, challenges your narratives, and reveals the distance between your ideal and your reality. It tells you when your boundaries are too small, when your ambitions are too safe, and when your beliefs are too rigid. Most people want awareness without the cost of discomfort, but that's like wanting strength without resistance. The friction you feel isn't failure, it's the shaping of consciousness itself. It's life pulling you toward a higher level of understanding, even if it has to tear apart your comfort to do it. Ultimately, awareness is a gift disguised as discomfort. Every moment of unease is an invitation to grow in clarity and strength. The pain of awareness is sharp because it demands honesty, and honesty dismantles everything false within you. But on the other side of that pain lies freedom, the freedom to choose consciously, to act with purpose, and to see reality as it is. When you stop resenting discomfort and start learning from it, you begin to understand that awareness is not something you find, it's something you awaken. An awakening always begins where comfort ends. Comfort is one of the most seductive illusions in human life. It disguises itself as peace, convincing you that stillness means safety and that predictability equals happiness. But comfort doesn't create peace, it creates paralysis. The longer you remain in comfort, the less you move, the less you think, and the less you grow. It is a quiet form of decay, a slow erosion of vitality. Peace, in contrast, is active. It's the result of alignment between your actions and your values. Comfort, however, requires nothing from you. It asks only that you avoid what challenges you, ignore what unsettles you, and surrender the hunger for more. Over time, this surrender becomes invisible. You stop noticing that your life has stopped expanding. The truth is, comfort feels safe precisely because it eliminates risk, and with it, responsibility. It shelters you from the possibility of failure, but it also prevents the possibility of transformation. In comfort, you begin to rationalize mediocrity. You tell yourself, this is enough. I don't need to push further. But deep down, a quiet dissatisfaction grows not because life is unfair, but because your potential is being neglected. Stagnation is not peace. It's the slow suffocation of meaning. The human spirit was never designed to live in perpetual safety. It was built to face challenge, to wrestle with uncertainty, to stretch towards something greater than itself. Without that struggle, you don't find peace, you find emptiness dressed as ease. What comfort really does is dull your awareness. It numbs you to the discomfort that signals growth. The mind begins to operate on autopilot, repeating familiar habits and stories. Your dreams fade into distant abstractions, and the fire that once burned in your chest turns into a faint ember. You begin to confuse avoidance with calm. But genuine peace doesn't come from hiding. It comes from mastery. It's born from facing chaos and learning to order it. The calm that follows confrontation is real peace, earned, not inherited. Comfort, on the other hand, demands no confrontation, so it grants no evolution. It offers stillness without structure, quiet without meaning. Consider the natural world. Every living organism that stops adapting begins to decay. A tree that ceases to push its roots deeper into the soil will eventually wither. A muscle left unused begins to atrophy. The same law applies to the human mind and soul. When you no longer challenge your thoughts, your beliefs become rigid. When you stop testing your limits, your abilities regress. You might still be alive, but you're no longer truly living. Comfort breeds a slow, invisible form of death, one that feels soft, but steals everything that makes life worth living. The irony is that the more you seek comfort, the more fragile you become, and the more fragile you become, the more terrifying discomfort appears. It's a vicious cycle that traps countless people in quiet desperation. To escape that trap, you must understand this. Peace is not the absence of discomfort, it is the mastery of it. Real peace is earned through discipline, through facing reality without distortion, through acting courageously even when fear whispers retreat. It's built through movement, not stillness. The path to peace always runs through effort, responsibility, and courage. Comfort may seem kind, but it is the enemy of potential. It keeps you soft where you need to be strong, silent where you need to speak, and still where you need to move. The moment you begin to confuse comfort with peace, you stop becoming, and when you stop becoming, you stop truly living. Pain is inevitable. That is one of life's most uncompromising truths. But the way you respond to pain determines whether it becomes your prison or your power. Most people run from pain because they see it as an enemy. They avoid it, suppress it, and distract themselves until they forget it's there. Yet, in doing so, they give it strength. Pain ignored becomes pain that controls you. The key to transformation lies not in avoidance, but in voluntary confrontation, the deliberate decision to face what terrifies you. When you choose to meet your pain willingly, you strip it of its power to define you. You move from being a victim of circumstance to an architect of meaning. Voluntary confrontation is the act of standing before the chaos within you and saying, "I will not run." It is the courage to face your fears, your failures, your grief, and your guilt without flinching. This act transforms pain into information. Suddenly, it's not just suffering, it's data about where you are broken, where you are afraid, where you still have work to do. Every unresolved wound contains insight. Every emotion you repress hides a truth about your values, your desires, or your history. By confronting that pain voluntarily, you begin to integrate those truths into your consciousness. The very thing that once weakened you becomes the raw material from which strength is forged. Avoidance, by contrast, only multiplies suffering. When you run from pain, it doesn't disappear, it festers in the shadows of your psyche, shaping your behavior in ways you don't understand. Fear becomes hesitation, shame becomes self-sabotage, anger becomes resentment. The energy of the avoided pain does not vanish, it simply distorts. Voluntary confrontation reverses this process. It pulls the pain out of the darkness and into the light of awareness. You begin to see that the wound is not the end, it's the beginning. The pain you choose to face becomes a source of discipline, clarity, and resilience. The act of confronting it teaches you that suffering is survivable, and that survival itself builds character. This transformation is not metaphorical, it's psychological and biological. When you confront what you fear, your nervous system reorganizes itself around strength rather than avoidance. You rewire your mind to tolerate discomfort, to stay composed under stress, to respond rather than react. That's not just emotional maturity, it's spiritual evolution. Voluntary confrontation is a ritual of self-reconstruction. Each time you willingly face pain, you reclaim another piece of yourself from the chaos. You begin to understand that courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. Pain becomes the forge in which the self is reforged, sharper, wiser, and more capable of bearing life's weight. In the end, power is not granted, it's earned through suffering, faced with intent. The person who runs from pain remains a hostage to it. The one who confronts it willingly transforms it into fuel. Through voluntary confrontation, pain ceases to be something that happens to you and becomes something that happens for you. It refines you, disciplines you, and forces you to evolve. That's the paradox. By embracing pain, you transcend it. You don't become invincible by avoiding suffering. You become unbreakable by integrating it. True power is not found in comfort, but in the courage to walk willingly into discomfort and emerge wiser, steadier, and infinitely stronger than before. Growth is not a gentle process, it's a dismantling. To become something new, you must first let go of who you once were, and that is never painless. Every stage of human transformation demands the death of an old identity, the dissolution of the self that once gave you security and definition. We cling to our identities because they tell us who we are, what we believe, and where we belong. But those same identities also imprison us. They limit what we can see and what we can become. Real growth asks for sacrifice, the sacrifice of the familiar, the comfortable, the known. The person you are today must die so the person you're meant to become can live. That death is not symbolic. It's psychological, emotional, and often spiritual. The tragedy is that most people want growth without loss. They want to transform without letting go. But evolution doesn't work that way. You cannot carry your past self into your future. Every belief, habit, and pattern that defined your old identity was built to serve a version of you that no longer exists. When life demands that you evolve, when it places you in discomfort, conflict, or change, it's really demanding that you shed what no longer fits. That shedding feels like chaos, like confusion, like grief. Because in a sense, it is grief, the grief of losing the person you thought you were. But within that loss lies the first seed of rebirth. Only by releasing the old form can you make room for something new to emerge. The death of an old identity often begins with confrontation. Something happens, failure, betrayal, heartbreak, success, that exposes the limits of your current self. You realize that the values, goals, or coping mechanisms that once kept you stable are now holding you back. You feel torn between two selves, the one that wants to stay safe and the one that longs to grow. That inner conflict is the battlefield of transformation. If you avoid it, you stay stuck, repeating the same lessons in different forms. If you face it, you undergo what can only be described as an internal death. You dissolve your old patterns. You question your beliefs. You let go of stories that once gave you comfort, but now suffocate your evolution. It's a painful unraveling, but without it, you remain a prisoner of your past. True growth feels like disintegration before it feels like renewal. You may lose relationships, ambitions, or environments that once defined you. You might even feel lost, as though you no longer know who you are. But that emptiness is sacred. It's the space in which rebirth occurs. When you no longer cling to old identities, you become fluid again, capable of adapting, learning, and expanding. It's in that state of uncertainty that genuine strength is forged. Growth requires you to trust that who you're becoming is worth the pain of losing who you were. Every meaningful transformation in history, personal or collective, has followed this law. Destruction precedes creation. The phoenix cannot rise without burning first. In the end, the death of old identities is not a loss, it's liberation. Each time you allow a part of yourself to die, you reclaim energy that was trapped in maintaining illusions. You free yourself to evolve consciously rather than reactively. Growth is not about adding more. It's about removing what no longer serves your becoming. To grow is to die continuously, to shed layers of falseness until what remains is something true, something whole, something resilient. The person who has learned to die many times in this way no longer fears change. They understand that identity is not a cage but a bridge, a temporary structure meant to be crossed and left behind. And on the far side of every death, there waits not an ending, but a deeper, more powerful beginning. Life is not meant to be a smooth, effortless journey. It was never designed to be a constant stream of pleasure or ease. The human spirit was built to wrestle with difficulty, to carve meaning out of chaos, to turn suffering into strength. Yet, in the modern world, we're taught to escape struggle at all costs. We medicate discomfort, distract ourselves from pain, and label all hardship as unfair. But meaning doesn't emerge from avoidance, it's born from the very struggles we try to flee. Struggle is not the enemy, it is the crucible in which purpose is forged. Every challenge, every heartbreak, Every loss holds the potential to teach you something profound about who you are and what life demands from you. Without struggle, you remain shallow, untouched by depth, untested by adversity, unaware of your own capacity. The search for meaning begins when you stop asking, "How can I avoid pain?" and start asking, "What can this pain teach me?" When you face struggle directly, you begin to realize that it's not punishment, it's instruction. It exposes what you value, what you fear, and what you're willing to fight for. Struggle draws the blueprint of your soul. It reveals the truth of your character in ways comfort never could. Those who seek to escape struggle often live lives of quiet emptiness, drifting from one distraction to another, wondering why nothing feels significant. But those who engage with struggle, who see it as a dialogue with life itself, begin to uncover a sense of purpose that cannot be shaken by circumstance. Struggle demands responsibility, and responsibility gives birth to meaning. Meaning is not found in pleasure because pleasure fades. It's not found in ease because ease produces nothing. Meaning is found in the confrontation with difficulty, in the process of voluntarily carrying burdens that matter. When you take responsibility for your suffering, you transform it into something noble. You begin to see that pain is not an obstacle to a meaningful life, but the very material from which meaning is built. The person who has endured much and still stands upright, still speaks truth, still acts with integrity, that person has discovered something sacred. They've learned that the weight of struggle, when carried willingly, becomes the foundation of dignity. It's in bearing that weight that life becomes worth living. Escape, on the other hand, promises relief but delivers emptiness. Every time you run from struggle, you weaken your connection to meaning. You become more dependent on distractions, more numb, more disoriented, more hollow. Escaping pain may grant temporary comfort, but it steals long-term strength. The paradox of life is that the very experiences we resist most fiercely are often the ones that shape us most deeply. To escape struggle is to refuse the invitation to evolve. To face it, however, is to enter into a sacred exchange. You offer your effort, your courage, your discipline, and in return, life grants you depth, wisdom, and resilience. In the end, meaning is not something you find out there in the world. It's something you create through how you meet your suffering. The struggle gives context to your triumphs, weight to your choices, and coherence to your existence. When you stop trying to escape and start trying to understand, you transform chaos into order and pain into purpose. You begin to see that struggle is not what ruins life. It's what gives life its texture, its gravity, its beauty. A life without struggle may seem comfortable, but it is empty. A life filled with struggle, faced with courage and intention, becomes luminous with meaning. Because it is through struggle that you earn your strength, discover your purpose, and awaken to the profound truth that the path to fulfillment runs straight through the heart of your suffering.